And your awareness of the answer is usually the decision you make. But if we don't have the confidence that we require to lead, we're going to be running around saying, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? Do you want to follow somebody that's always asking other people, what do you think I should do? I don't think so. He's talking about definiteness of plans. You got to have some plans. You got to know where you're going. You got to know how you're going to get there. Now understand this. The plan can change. The goal cannot. You do not change the goal. You can change the plan. And since we're making the plans and we're not perfect, we are in essence, but we haven't brought the perfection to the surface, some of the plans are going to be flawed and we'll have to change them. He said the habit of doing more than you're being paid for. You know, I studied this a long time ago. He said, if you're not doing more than you're being paid for, you're never going to be paid for more than you're doing. It took me years to understand that. I'm not going to explain it beyond there. I want you to think about it the way I've thought about it. If you're not willing to do more than you're being paid for, you're never going to be paid for more than you're doing. Most people are waiting to get paid before they'll do it. That's like standing in front of a stove and saying, give me the heat and then I'll put on the wood. It won't fly. That dog won't hunt. You've got to understand these things. You have to have a pleasant personality. Who wants to follow someone that's got a mean and miserable personality? I don't think anybody does. These are basic laws of leadership. Sympathy and understanding. Sympathy and understanding. Understanding is really the key. Understanding is the polar opposite to worry and doubt. Understanding can only be accomplished one way, through study. There's no other way. Now, there's many forms of study. But if you want to lead, you must understand. You must understand who you are. You must understand the laws of your being. You have to understand the other person. And you'll never understand the other person if you don't understand yourself. Mastery of detail. And do you know what I've found? You don't have to master it yourself, but you have to have people that will. You have to have people that will. You've got to understand how to lead. These are all basics. Willingness to assume full responsibility. See, responsibility is the key to freedom. I like the way Harry Truman had a little sign on his desk. It said, the buck stops here. I take full and complete responsibility for the position that our company is in, because I'm the leader in the company. And if I'm not prepared to take responsibility, this company's not going to go very far, very fast. And cooperation. We have to learn how to cooperate. These are basics. They're basics that I don't know if you ever master them, but you can continually improve upon your ability to develop this within yourself. But let's go back to where we started. You are never going to be an effective leader if you're not a real intelligent follower. Don't be afraid to follow. Follow the effective leader. And you know what you're going to learn? You're going to learn how to lead. And pretty soon people are going to want to follow you. And that's when you're going to be the intelligent leader. And remember what Chris Haggerty said. The goal of most leaders is to get the people to think highly of them as a leader. But he said the goal of the effective leader is to get the people to think highly of themselves. Get people to fall in love with themselves. Help them understand who they are. And you'll never have a problem leading other people. And remember what Earl Nightingale said. Attitude filters down from the top. You don't raise morale. It filters down from the top. Keep yourself in tune with the higher side of your personality. And you know something? The energy that you send off is going to be the energy that you'll find come back to you. Become a great leader.
You know, I love the point Bob just made about leaders. He said the goal of the exceptional leader is to get people to think highly of themselves. Isn't that a great leadership principle? Understanding your role, both as a leader and a follower, is vital to your well-being at work. Don't be afraid to follow. Follow an effective leader, and you'll learn how to lead. Learn as much as you can about yourself, and you'll be an effective leader. Discuss this concept of leadership with your team. Performing the exercises in the guide will clarify your comfort level with leading and following. You may be surprised at your leadership potential. What kind of leader do you choose to be? Hello, this is Sandy Gallagher welcoming you back to Lesson 11 of Thinking into Results. We've given you a lot of tools so far that, when applied, will bring phenomenal results to you. Today, we're talking about creating increase for you, not decrease, which comes when you compete with others. Let me explain. If you leave each person you meet with the impression of increase, a feeling of benefiting from their interaction with you, it will not only make that person feel better, but it also enriches your life, because doing this creates an energy that will flow through you to that person you're uplifting, and it'll make you feel better in the process. This is true customer satisfaction. Feel empowered to make the other person feel good. This may just be the lesson that's made the biggest impact on my life, on my law practice, on my friendships, literally everything, including building this company, Life Success Corporate. Because I'm constantly thinking about how I can leave the person I'm dealing with like they've got more from interacting with me. A richer, more fulfilling career and life are in your hands. Here's Bob to tell you how.
Hello there and welcome. Lloyd Conant, co-founder of the Nightingale Conant Corporation in Chicago, was a very dear friend of mine while he was alive, and I hold very fond memories of him. He really helped me understand how to get the best out of myself. And one day in 1968, I was sitting in his kitchen, and I asked Lloyd, I said, Lloyd, how did you start this company? Because Lloyd Conant and Earl Nightingale didn't just start a company, they started an industry. The self-help industry as we know it today. It's the largest distribution house of self-help material in the world. And so I was sitting there, and Lloyd started to talk about a book he read. And he said, I studied this all weekend. It was called The Little Green Book. Well, all of a sudden, I wasn't interested in how he started the company. I wanted to know what this little green book was. See, I was into studying. I wanted to know, why did everything in the world happen the way it was happening? And he gave me a copy. It was called The Science of Getting Rich, and it was written by Wallace D. Wattles in 1903. It was, by the way, the book that inspired Rhonda Byrne to make that runaway hit movie, The Secret, that I was very fortunate enough to be in. And I began to study it. In chapter 14 in that book is something everyone should burn into their mind. It's leave every person you come in contact with the impression of increase. Now think about that. You want to leave everyone you come in contact with the impression of increase. If you just happen to be stopping by the water cooler, give the person that's there a compliment. But it's got to be sincere, merited praise. I'm not talking about flattery. That's pretty hollow and shallow. Do you know that everyone does something well? Start looking for what other people do well. Bring it to their attention. Let them know that you notice it. Give them an idea that inspires them. Leave every person you come in contact with the impression of increase. And if you see the best in other people, in other companies, in other situations and conditions and circumstance, you're going to be in a phenomenal vibration. You're just going to feel good all the time. Your whole world is going to improve. Bring that idea into your mind. Leave everyone you come in contact with the impression of increase. In other words, make them feel good because you have come in contact with them. It was one of the greatest rules that I've ever learned. The compensation that you get from developing that into your character is phenomenal. It goes beyond the scope of your imagination. If you want rich rewards, leave every person with the impression of increase. See, there is a science to getting rich, and I don't just mean money. I'm talking about all aspects of your life, an abundant life. We're dealing with an infinite source of supply. And the author of that book said, you do not get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. Now, think about that. You do not get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. You see, you could find two people working in the same company for the same sales manager, and they're selling the same product in the same marketplace. One is doing very well and the other's struggling, and yet they're both doing the same thing. Now this has puzzled people for many years. What is the difference? Do you know what I have found? I have found that most of the huge corporations do not know what their real top producers are doing. And most of the top producers don't know what they're doing. They're what you call unconscious competence. You see, if corporations knew what the real hard chargers were doing, they would can it and give it to everybody. They don't know what they're doing. You do not get rich by doing certain things. Now I can paraphrase that. You do not become a real pro in your field by doing certain things. You become a real pro in your field by doing things in a certain way. Think about Tiger Woods. Now, you may not be a great golfer. I'm not a great golfer. I've played a lot of golf, but it's just something that I do periodically. But I understand a bit about the game, and I understand this, that this guy is so far beyond everyone else in his field, there isn't any comparison, and everybody knows that. Do you know he's the best in the world, and yet he's changed his game twice to get better? There was no competition. But you see, Tiger Woods doesn't compete. He creates. When he goes out in that golf course, he's not competing against anybody else. He's competing against Tiger Woods. The science of getting rich, the science of being the best in your field, is not by doing certain things, it's by doing things in a certain way. Now, if you're going to understand what the certain way it is, it's by law. There's laws that govern this whole universe. And you must understand these laws. And if you don't understand them, odds are pretty good nothing of any consequence is really going to happen, because it's going to happen on a hit and miss basis. Now there's some people, I was one of them, that by some stroke, I don't know really how it happens, I don't know if we're guided or what it is, they just start doing things in a certain way and they just keep getting better and better and better and better. But they're not able to articulate, they can't tell you why. School doesn't teach this. School does not teach the laws. They do not. School teaches us very little about ourselves. As a matter of fact, Dr. John Mike, who heads up the Montessori school in Fort Lauderdale, is a psychiatrist, and his wife Susan is a psychiatrist. He said that I taught him more about the mind in 1 year than he had learned in 4 years of medical school and 5 years of psychiatric training. Now, I always found that rather interesting, since I just shared with him what a good doctor had shared with me. See, I have learned some of the basics for really improving the quality of your life. That's what thinking into results is all about. It's about the basics. And one of the basics is that you do not become the best in your field by doing certain things. You become the best in your field by doing things in a certain way. You've got to be very calm and confident. You've got to know who you are. James Allen said, calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It's the result of long and patient effort in self-control. That's one of the basic qualities of leadership. Self-control. You've got to control yourself. Goethe, the German philosopher, psychologist, who really swayed the thinking of the entire Western world, he said, before you can do something, you first must be something. You've got to do things in a certain way. You've got to bring your mind into harmony with the laws that govern your being. You've got to understand that the thoughts that you think control your emotions. And your emotions control the vibration that your body's in, so it controls how you act. If you don't spend a respectable amount of time gaining an understanding of the relationship of the conscious to the subconscious to the body, you're dealing on a hit and miss basis. Life is very short. It can be an absolutely phenomenal trip, but it can also be a massive headache if we don't understand how to make things happen. The law says what you put out comes back. We just want to put the very best out. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. If you're going to win, you've got to be courageous. I quoted Earl Nightingale in a previous lesson where he said the opposite of courage is not cowardice, it's conformity. It's just going along with everybody else. Don't do what everybody else is doing. You're going to end up where they end up. Nowhere. Struggling to get by. You want to stand out like a beacon on a dark night. You want to make certain that you are one of the most effective human beings that you could ever be. Do things in a certain way. The one point that all great leaders have agreed on, I've quoted them 2 or 3 times, is that you and I become what we think about. It's not just the thoughts that we consciously entertain. We have all kinds of ridiculous, negative, aborted thoughts that come flying through our consciousness. That's not what we become. We become what thoughts we take and internalize. We get emotionally involved in. The thoughts that we let control us. How do we think about our company? How do we think about our job? Don't let everybody around you control how you think about the company. You think about great thoughts about this company. Understand this. When you talk to somebody, you're the company. You're the company. The company's people. Great companies develop great people. You develop great people. You're the people. You do not become the best at what you're doing by doing certain things. You become by doing these things in a certain way. And that certain way is all the way through thinking into results. Make it a part of your way of thinking. Make it a part of your way of life. And you will have a phenomenal life. Make up your mind that regardless of what you did in the past, you're going to do something phenomenal in the future. You see, I did this. You're not talking to somebody that's just read a book and sharing it with you. I had no formal education. I had no business experience. I had 2 months high school. I had a bad work record. And I was 26 and bang, like that, everything started to turn around because I started to study. Now that was many years ago, but I've earned millions of dollars. I've built companies, not a company, companies that operate all over the world. And you know something? I don't even think what I've done is that great. It's nothing compared to what I'm going to do. If you really want to make it happen, you got to make it happen every day. When you wake up in the morning, make up your mind today you're going to do it better than you've ever done it before. You're going to do it in a certain way. The certain way is the best way. But you know something? There's always a better way. What's best today isn't best tomorrow. There's a better way. There's a better way of doing everything. Now, I want to leave you on this lesson with a law. It is an absolute law, and remember, I've said it before. A law is something that operates all the time with every person, everywhere. This is the law of compensation. The law of compensation clearly states that the amount of money you earn is always going to be in exact ratio with the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Just 3 steps. The need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Now ask yourself, is there a great need for what you do? I would say the answer to that is probably an unequivocal yes. There is great need. So that's there and you had nothing to do with it. If you just focus on the second step, you're going to become better at what you do. Every day you're going to perfect it just a little bit. Do you know something? You're going to be very difficult to replace. Now, there's no one that's indispensable. In fact, I read a poem one time. It says, it was called The Indispensable Person. It said, put your hand in a bucket of water, put it in up to the wrist, pull it out, and the hole that remains is just how much you'll be missed. You can splash all you want as you enter. You can stir up the water galore, but take it out in no time. It'll be much the same as before. The idea behind it was that there's no indispensable person, but there's some that are very difficult to replace. I mentioned Tiger Woods. Do you know he paid millions of dollars just to show up at a golf tournament? He draws people like no other golfer can. He's the very best at what he does. Make up your mind, if you take care of the second point here, it's the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. You make up your mind, you're going to become very good at what you do. You're going to give it everything you've got. You're going to do things, everything, in a certain way. You're going to become very difficult to replace. And you know something? When that happens, your stock goes up. And if where you're working doesn't recognize that, there will be somebody waiting at the door that'll always pay you more. The opportunity's always here. It's always here for the person who masters what they do. You do not get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. It's a phenomenal concept. It's one that's guided my life for many, many years, and I've been richly rewarded. I live in a healthy body. I have friends on every continent, in almost every major city in the world. I earn all kinds of money. I have all kinds of fun. But you know something? Everything I do in a certain way. I have found, after close to 50 years, that I really don't know much about myself. And I'm excited to learn more. Because as I do, more of my world unfolds. You know, we're something like a flower that blooms. Imagine a rose for a moment. Do you know you can stand and stare at a rose, and it'll completely unfold before your eyes, and you'll never see a petal move. And if you try and force the unfoldment of that rose, you'll kill it. A rose is one of the most beautiful expressions of life. And you are without question one of the most magnificent expressions of life. And do everything in a certain way. You'll be compensated in a just way. It's Bob Proctor, thank you.
Doesn't a feeling of increase feel good? It sure does. You're going to feel good all the time if you leave others with the impression of increase. If you see and highlight the best in people in your company and in other situations and circumstances, you're going to be in a phenomenal energy. You win and everyone wins. The law of attraction says that what you put out is what comes back. Put your best out all the time, every time. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. You want to make certain that you're one of the most effective human beings you could ever be. Do things in a certain way. The certain way is all through this program. Every lesson is a lesson on thinking into results. Go back and look at all the tools you've acquired so far and get to know them really well, because you'll become what you think about. Hello, this is Sandy Gallagher. Welcome back to Lesson 12 of Thinking into Results. Here we are on our last and final lesson in this amazing process of thinking into results. But you know, it's really just the beginning. You heard Bob talk about Napoleon Hill, the master teacher of human potential and the author of Think and Grow Rich, which is one of the best-selling business books ever. He possibly influenced more people into success than any other person in history. His 24 years of researching the most successful business leaders led him to the belief that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others succeed. That's what we'll discover today, how to take what you've learned and magnify it dramatically by creating a mastermind group, which is a group of like-minded people whose purpose is to achieve successful results. This lesson has had a huge impact on my life. Masterminding, you know, it's hard for some, easy for others. But for me, it was kind of hard because I had to let go of some ideas, like I have to have all the answers, or I can't be wrong, or they'll think I don't know enough, or even that they'll compete with me. You know those thoughts. But in a mastermind group, each participant thinks about giving, not getting. I now mastermind on virtually everything, and it's made a quantum leap in the results that I get. Great success is achieved as a result of great teamwork. Here's Bob to explain more.
Hello again. You know, in my business, I'm frequently called upon to speak at a convention. And there could be anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand people, and I speak all over the world. It could be in Asia, or it might be in America, or Europe, or Australia. And frequently, when I get onto the dais in front of this audience, I stand there and say nothing, and I just look around at the audience. Now, of course, they're sitting there, and they're waiting and probably wondering, is this guy ever going to speak? And then I asked them a question. I said, how many of you believe that if you just tried a little bit harder, you could do a whole lot better? And I raised my hand. And of course, hands are going up all over the audience. Then I say, isn't that interesting? I used to think that. Let me share something with you. This comes from a marvelous little book that was written by a man named Price Pritchett out of Dallas, Texas. And I've come to love this little book. He begins the book by saying, I'm sitting in a quiet room at the Millcroft Inn, a peaceful little place hidden back among the pine trees about 1 hour out of Toronto. He said, it's just past noon in late July, and I'm listening to the desperate sounds of a life or death struggle going on just a few feet away. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell the poignant story of the fly's strategy. Try harder, but it is not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It is impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Now, across the room, just 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and this small creature could reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it would be free of its self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there, and it would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something dramatically different. How did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determination and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly. Regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Trying harder is not necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. Isn't that good? You know, every now and then when I'm putting everything I've got into a project and I seem to be having difficulty, something kicks in up here and said, maybe you should try another approach. Maybe you're acting like that fly. Now, I've read this story many, many times, so I'm very familiar with it. And you know, if you listen to it a few times, you're going to embed it in your mind. I love it. And you know, it opened up a world for me. Now, since that was on the first page of the book, I started to pay attention to what I read. And he's talking about U square. U square. Now think about that. U square. It's U with a little 2. How do you square a number? You multiply it by the number, don't you? If you're squaring 4, you multiply 4 by 4. 4 squared is 16. 10 squared is 100. What are U squared? What would you be like? Do you know that there's no one alive that can even guess at what you and I are capable of doing? No one. We're talking about infinite potential. All science and all theology indicate that we have infinite. I don't even know what infinite is. It's no beginning, no end. No end. How would you square that? You know what the idea is? That you've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability within you, and you can bring them to the surface. That's what thinking into results is all about. You want to value this. I mean, really dig into it, because it's all about you. Now, let me share what this author says about U square. And then I'm going to give you a strategy that's going to be phenomenal, that you can use not just in your business, but in your personal life. I've been using it myself for many, many years. The author points out U square implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. We're programmed to take logical steps. We really are. Expect maybe 5 or 10% increase. How about 500%? Now let me repeat that. U square implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. Do you realize that you and I have been programmed as part of our paradigm, part of our habitual behavior, to take logical, progressive steps? This author is suggesting we do something dramatically different. He says it's a formula for stunning advances in achievement and the realization of your dreams. The concept is one of exponential gains rather than incremental progress. You might compare it to multiplying instead of adding. It means a geometric progression in your effectiveness. Doesn't that appeal to you? It really appeals to me. Become that much more effective. Now, he said that's exciting as well as provocative, but it gets even better. Remember, quantum leaps come without apparent effort. These are high velocity moves that carry you to dramatically higher performance levels without a time-consuming struggle. Quantum leaps seem to violate common sense utterly. The idea of moving to a higher orbit and skipping several rungs on the achievement ladder in the process strikes people as far-fetched, maybe even outrageous. Well, I have seen things like that happen by changing some of the very simplest steps that we've been taking. I remember many years ago working with the largest insurance company in the world. And I watched their sales go up by hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm not exaggerating. Yet it was so dramatic that I could write my own ticket around the insurance industry, and I had never sold insurance. I remember talking to a large audience and saying to them, any of you could go out and write $5 million in business this year. Now this is 35 years ago. A man came up to me at the break and he says, Proctor, have you ever sold insurance? And I said, no, I never have. He said, I didn't think so. I said, why are you saying that? He said, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, is that right? I said, the truth is I really do know what I'm talking about. I've just never sold insurance. He said, you said that anyone in that room could go out this year and sell $5 million worth of insurance. He said, you know, no one has ever done that in our company. And the year's over half gone. I said, then you could be the first. But he said, this is August. You said we could do it this year. Well, then I said, it isn't going to take you as long, is it? He looked at me with sort of a stupid look on his face. I said, listen, I'm operating on the premise you already know how to do many times better than you're doing. You just haven't learned how to close that knowing-doing gap. I'm going to show you how to do what you're telling me you can't do, and you're not even going to learn anything new. I'm going to show you how to start to do something you already know how to do, how to really bring the power you've got to the surface. Now, do you know the second week in December, that man's name was Don Slovan in Chicago. The second week in December, he had $5,200,000 worth of business on the books, and he closed the year with a little better than $6 million. And there was a whole string of people following him. He learned how to marshal his faculties. He learned how to take what he already knew and focus it. Now, I want you to imagine that you take the department that you're working in. I don't care if it's the sales department or the accounting department. It really doesn't make any difference. I always see a company as having just two departments. One sales and one sales support. One doesn't function without the other. You could take every position in every company and that's where it falls, into sales or sales support. Elmer Willer one time said, nothing happens till somebody sells something. We could have also said, nothing happens until they support the people that sell it. Two departments. Well, let's take any department and bring a group of people together and they operate as a unit. Now think about what I'm saying. We're going to bring a group of people together and they operate as one unit. It's like hooking up a group of batteries. Now we call this masterminding to compound our effectiveness, to solve challenges that we face. See every challenge as a learning opportunity. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what goes wrong. This is a learning opportunity. And if it's a big problem, big challenge, there's a lot to learn. We want to get excited about it. Little problems are not going to excite anybody. It's the big ones that you want to look for, you see. Now, in your Thinking into Results Action Planner, and it is a plan for action. We want to move into action. And in the action, there's guidelines for setting up a mastermind group. But I want you to imagine that you've already learned the guidelines and you've brought a group of people together. There should be no more than 8. Now, that's just to save time. And if you've got more than 8, break it into 2 groups. And when they get together, they read these mastermind principles. Everyone reads them aloud together. I'm going to read them to you, and then I'm going to comment on them. I want you to imagine a group of people coming together. There is a common situation that they want to accomplish, a goal, a challenge that they want to overcome. They begin by reading. I begin every mastermind meeting by reading these 7 mastermind principles. I release myself to the mastermind because I am strong when I have others to help me. I believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond my own. I understand that I will more easily create positive results in my life when I am open to looking at myself and my problems and opportunities from another's point of view. I decide to release my desire totally in trust to the mastermind, and I am open to accepting new possibilities. I forgive. This is good. I forgive myself for mistakes I have made. I also forgive others who have hurt me in the past so I can move into the future with a clean slate. Nice idea. I ask the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, and my desires. And I hear my mastermind partner supporting me in my fulfillment. I accept. I know, relax, and accept, believing that the working power of the mastermind will respond to my every need, and I am grateful knowing that is so. Dedication and covenant. I now have a covenant in which it is agreed that the mastermind shall supply me with an abundance of all things necessary to live a success-filled and happy life. I dedicate myself to be of maximum service to God and my fellow human beings, to live in a manner that will accept the highest example for others to follow, and to remain an open channel of God's will. I go forth in a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy. Now, I want you to imagine that there's 5, 6, maybe 8 of you sitting around in a group. You might be standing around in a factory, or you could be sitting around the board table. This is just as effective for the executive as it is for the janitor in the company. But you're all sitting around, and you've come together because maybe one member of the mastermind has called you together. Now, this mastermind is a group of people that all belong to the mastermind. Maybe one person's away and they can't come. That's fine. But let's suppose I've got a particular challenge. I have a challenge in my particular position, and I just don't know how to solve it. And I might go and say to each one of you, at lunch hour, would you mind if we have an emergency 15-minute mastermind meeting? And even if it's only a 15-minute meeting, you start off by reading these. So you to have them available at all times. And you state your situation. This is a problem that I have. I would like the mastermind to help me solve it. Now imagine a group of people all getting together, dedicated to helping you solve your problem. It's a marvelous thing. Sometimes it may just be, if it's outside of your business, it may be a mastermind group where each one states what they want. The mastermind helps. See? There's a group of people all come together. You release yourself to the mastermind. In other words, become open. See, a closed mind is not going to accept help. It takes an open mind. You believe that this group of people, and the longer you're together and the more you work together, the more powerful it becomes. You believe that your answer is lying there in that group. And you understand that you're going to much easier create the results you want when you have a whole group of people working at helping you. You dedicate yourself to the mastermind. When somebody asks, you go. You set aside your own situation and you go to the mastermind. You are coming into this for what you can give, not what you can get. That's another part of it. It's what can you contribute to the mastermind. I have a number of mastermind partners that some of you recognize. John Asraf from The Secret. He's been a mastermind partner of mine for many years. He's the man with the vision board. Mark Victor Hansen, co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul group. Mark and I have been mastermind partners for 30 years. And I can phone these people at any time and we'll come in a mastermind group. I have a number of mastermind groups that I belong to, and they of course can do the same for me. Cynthia Kersey, the author of the book Unstoppable. And I've got a new person now that's working with is Debbie Ford. Why Good People Do Bad Things, new book out. Debbie Ford's a genius at what she does. I forgive. You see, I may have done something wrong. I may have hurt one of the members of my mastermind. It might have been deliberate, it might have been unconscious. But if I've done it, I've got to forgive myself for it. I can't go around feeling bad and, and feeling guilty. Forgive means to let go of completely, abandon. Now, one of my mastermind partners may have done something to me. I've got to forgive them. We cannot come into a mastermind group with any feelings of guilt or resentment or animosity. It's got to be free-flowing. Forgiveness is good for the soul anyway. Yours and mine. It always has been. Well, let's learn how to do it. Just let it go. Let it go. And then we ask. We ask for help, believing that we're going to receive it. And then we've got to accept. See, some people haven't learned to accept. Do you know what I learned? I learned that giving and receiving are the same thing. We want to willingly give and graciously receive. Now, I learned that from one of my mentors. It was a wonderful lesson Bell Vanderwall taught me. He said, Bob, you have to learn to willingly give and graciously receive. Good rules. Well, we want to do that. And then we get into the dedication and covenant. And this means something. You see, when we read these in every meeting, they take on more meaning every time we read them. It's the repetition of these principles that really burn them into our mind. Now think for a moment. If every department in your company came together, you may even get somebody from another department to join. You're looking with people bringing different skills and experiences and knowledge to the party. And you've got groups of people figuring, how can we take and compound, square the productivity in here? Well, we don't have any idea what we're capable of doing as a group. Now, I've mentioned it before, I want to mention again. Your company is not the building you go to. I'm going down to the company. No. The company is the people in the building. A company is people. And remember, the purpose is not the first order of business. The first order of business is profit. Because if you're not earning a profit in your company, you're going out of business. But that's not the purpose of your company. It's not the purpose of any human organization. The purpose of every human organization is to make life more meaningful. That's what thinking into results is all about. It's about helping every individual in the organization to grow as a person, to bring more of themselves to the surface, to improve the results in our life. Think about the fly. Trying harder isn't necessarily the answer. Think about squaring your results. I've squared my results a few times. And you know what it's done? It's made my life much more exciting. You see? And then think of the mastermind. Get mastermind groups going all through your company. And have one going in your personal life. You'll find it's the best move you can make. That's how to really square your productivity. This is Bob Proctor. Thank you.
Are you ready for your quantum leap? Quantum leaps come without apparent effort. These are high-velocity moves that carry you to higher performance levels, without struggle. Quantum leaps can happen by applying the concepts of thinking into results. Remember, real learning begins with action. You learned a lot about the power of your mind, and you've just learned more about the power of a group. A mastermind group is really the key to magnifying your mind. All great leaders and business persons follow this principle. When a group of individual brains are coordinated and they function in harmony, energy increases, and that energy becomes available to every individual brain in the group. That's a mastermind, and that's where you achieve real power. Keep creating new goals, bigger and better ones. Go through the program again, because repetition is the key to learning. And as you go through the program again, you will learn more than you did the first time. The program is the same, but you are different, and you will see things you didn't see or understand the first time. The key to lasting results is always strive for more. Are you open to the endless possibilities that are awaiting you?